All right, everyone. Last week's meditation, we talked about how we can, with intention, receive frequencies out of the universe in order to revitalize and heal our energetic bodies, and by doing so, resuscitate and heal the physical body. And I might have neglected to mention at that time that this entire process of receiving from the universe and utilizing what you receive from the universe requires a level of discipline, trust, a dash of faith, and in the midst of all of that, a belief system that you are in fact an energy being. I fight with all of my clients, without exception. I fight regularly with all of my clients around the issue of trust. Some of the time it is because they experience me as a person with all of her flaws and foibles and eccentricities, and then they experience me as a spiritual teacher with all of spirit present, and they never quite know which one to respond or react to. In both spaces, I have exactly the same capacity, exactly the same natural resource. So the difficulty with whether to trust Navi coming from both sides of herself, as we like to see me in the duality, is not mine. When I am living both sides of my duality, I am always, without exception, trusting spirit, trusting my channeling, trusting my knowing, trusting my feelings, trusting what I am given, and even if I don't trust it 100%, I accept it and give it room to expand. So this method of utilizing the frequencies of the universe for your own healing requires a practice of trust. It requires discipline. Now, this discipline, which is the cornerstone of any and every spiritual life, is not a matter of convenience. Discipline says, I pay attention. I am conscious of choosing to live mindfully. I am conscious of choosing to be soul every moment of my life and living from there on the human plane. We've talked about this in terms of you do not suddenly become soul when you walk into a spiritual center. And then, of course, there's this whole question of, I am an energetic being. Now, for most people, the understanding that they are, in fact, energy is a difficult one. They cannot see themselves as electromagnetic fields. They cannot see themselves as a series of transmissions or different frequencies, or even as color. They cannot see themselves as sound frequencies operating in the universe, because we have already been conditioned into over-identifying with the physical body. That the gross matter of the physical body is entirely dependent upon your energetic system is laughable for most people. They would need a scientist to prove that to them with 30 million reports before they understood it or accepted it. When you are on a spiritual pathway, it appears to be natural that I accept that I am an energy being. And in every meditation, I talk to you as soul. I talk to you as an energy being. Until I got smacked upside the head about, I have forgotten that I know, and I have forgotten what others are still learning. It is now so much a part of my inner language and so much a part of my outer language that it doesn't even occur to me that most people do not know that first and foremost, they are energy. So while I'm talking, I want you to sit there and just check for yourself. Just question yourself, scan yourself energetically, consciously. Do you know that you are an energy being? Or is that a rational thought that you are using for the sake of meditations in the hope that it will work? I have clients who say to me, it's very nice that, you're talking to somebody and telling me what they're saying, but I don't actually know if I believe in spirit or spirit guides, or, I know that you're channeling something, but I don't know whether I believe in that or not. And yet for me, it's so natural. It's second nature to be talking with spirit. It's second nature to access angels and guides and ascended masters and the Lord husband. So what is natural for me is not necessarily as easy or as natural or as acceptable to others. My truth is my truth. For others, it remains a lie. And you need to check for yourself what is true for you. If it is your truth that you are in fact an energy being and that you are able to synchronize yourself in harmony with the universal flow, the highest and lowest frequencies available in it, then yes, you will be able to heal yourself by consciously intending the receipt of a specific frequency for your physical body, emotional body, mental body, and spiritual bodies. If you do not know this, if you are pretending it, if it is nothing more than a rational thought that you are playing with, then we have layers of thinking beneath that thought that in turn negates it. And this is what I was talking about when we did the previous meditation about affirmations in the Tuesday group and wanting to link the truth of our spiritual bodies with what we are manifesting as our well-being, our becoming in the physical body. I like the way these meditations are all flowing into each other. But everybody needs to stop and take a deep breath in and check. What do you know? What do you believe? What goes against the grain for you? You cannot use a technique when you're coming from an assumption about that technique. You cannot use a technique that has a basic premise based on being a spiritual being. You cannot use it if you are a rational being who comes from a physical identity and has no trust whatsoever in being energy. This is a problem, because I don't want anybody turning around and saying, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. And then I must say, well, hello, it didn't work because you have no faith in yourself or in energy or in spirit. So please check. And part of the purpose of meditation is to experience yourself as energy. And from experiencing yourself as energy, gather enough information experientially as well as orally, verbally, that you can put into your cellular body, so that when the question of am I an energy being arises within you with mistrust, your bodies can go, possibly, oh, yes. How can I say yes? Because at that meditation, I experienced my third eye opening, and I experienced my crown chakra opening. I experienced my auric field expanding. And if you have forgotten that you've had all of these experiences, then please sit quietly and focus in. What does my body know that my mind has forgotten? What does my body know? And hold it to cellular memory that my mind is too busy to refocus on. Because trust is a process, and trusting spirit may come easily to some and is completely off the charts for others. Trusting people doesn't come easily to anybody. So now we have to go back to what do we know inside of us to create a foundation of trust in our relating with self as energy and with spirit as energy, with the universe as energy. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and I really hate being blue in the face. And I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and it still will not shift your lack of trust or discipline or intuitive knowing or natural resourceful knowing that you are spirit, that you are energy. I can't do that for you. I cannot create the dynamic process within you that comes with its own assurance of belonging, that comes with its own assurance and peace of mind of being in oneness with universal intelligence or energy. I had to learn it the hard way. And if all of you want to learn it the hard way as well, that explains why I am your teacher, because I am the hard way. Isn't that so? Yeah, everybody's nodding quietly, surreptitiously, like I won't see them nodding. Even spirit is nodding. If you have chosen to learn that you are in fact an intelligence of the universe, an expression of the universe on the physical plane, then you've chosen the right teacher for the job. I'm not going to teach you to love God, and I'm not going to teach you to love yourself. That's something you will discover along the way. But one of the things you do have to work at, that you do have to be committed to, is practicing the trusting, practicing the techniques, practicing the receiving. Without practice, you are going to be coming to meditation for the next 20 years, even if I am not here. We'll just hit the rewind and repeat button. That didn't sound like fun at all. And spirit is laughing because you're saying, even in this talk, we have hit the rewind and repeat button. How many times have I said this already? At least twice or thrice a year? Yeah. So take stock. Every now and again we have to go back to the basics. Take stock. Are you an energy being? If the quick answer is no, that's okay. We can't insist that you be that. But if you are an energy being, what kind of energy are you? What color do you suppose your energy is? What sound does it have? Is it a fuzzy, foggy energy? Is it a clear energy? Can you picture yourself as an energy being? And all of you have pictures of yourself as energy beings because I put it there in the group, right? Yeah? I put it there in the group. Some of you will look like sparks flying all the time, like you're a Guy Fawkes fireworks display, all by your lonesome. And then some of you will have congestion. This is not about what is the state of your energy body. It's about whether or not your identity of yourself includes such a thing as being an energy body. One of my longest friends in my life, I've known her since I was 12, which is almost 40 years, called this afternoon, and she had a few things to say about deal breakers. And her priorities are quite different from mine. I heard myself saying, well, you know, if somebody can say chakra or understand what a chakra is, then that's sort of a deal breaker for me in terms of whether or not we're going to have any kind of relationship, whether we're going to have a language in common or interests in common. It's important for me that we speak the same language, that we have common interests, for us to have any kind of relating. By the same token, it is important for either soul to engage with other souls in a like-minded way, to share information, to engage with other souls in an energetic transmission that uplifts everybody. There is an entire communication going on while we're just talking. My entire physical body is now hot because the energy transmission happening around me is flowing so intensely and forcefully, more forcefully than the sound of my voice. But if you're not an energy being and you don't have that sense of yourself, that identity with yourself, how will you know This is called being in oblivion, unconscious of self or that aspect of self. And we know a lot of people who live like that. So check, what does your belief system say? And have you managed to move beyond a belief system into a knowing? If you have, how do you know? If you haven't, what's getting in the way? Now, I know that it is difficult. Everybody says this to me. It is difficult to live I the soul all the time. I forget it all the time. It is difficult to always come from that space where I am in complete oneness or in alignment or in synchronicity with the universal intelligence that connects us all, that is at work for us all. So I descend into doing human regularly. But at the core of my being, even when I descend into that complete humanity, I am so aware that Spirit is listening. And I know that they are listening because there's usually a running commentary somewhere about what I'm saying and what I'm doing, and I'm getting smacked upside the head, or Spirit is vastly entertained by my being this low vibrational human doing, and they laugh at me and they remind me that I'm not that, and that I'm not only that I am buying into an illusion, and that I'm a step up from the illusion, and that when I rise above the illusion, the ways to manage that physical plane stuff come more easily. So I have that, and I'm blessed to have that communication to keep me on track and to keep me learning. What have you got? What have you got going on inside of you and in your environment, in your space, that acts as your reminder that you are in fact consistently and constantly energy and in the presence of a universal intelligence? Whether you believe in God or not, and how you believe in God or not, is completely immaterial, meaning irrelevant and immaterial to this part of the discussion. This part of the discussion is, what is your identity on the physical plane primarily? What is the dominant identity? And how does it rule whether or not you are able to heal yourself and empower yourself in terms of universal frequencies and intelligences? 99.9% of the people I work with are delighted to work with Spirit, but lapse. They lapse into what they think of as being their real life. And the problem with this game that we're playing is that everybody comes out of the ego in order to live Spirit, and then they go back into that box and that framework of reference in order to understand Spirit, in order to work with Spirit. And you absolutely cannot experience yourself as energy and Spirit as energy and the universal intelligence as energy from inside the framework that is ego. That little box itself places limitations. For example, it places limitations on the words that I can use to explain things. It places limitations on whether or not I will know what I can see. It puts things out of reach. The conditions of that ego framework is in and of itself limiting. And so much of what we have learned over the past 30 to 50 years in what we call the New Age has been put inside of that ego framework. And this understanding of being able to heal oneself by receiving frequencies directly outside of the universe itself, outside your physical body, because you are an energy being, has been taught inside of the ego framework. It has been taught with specific techniques and specific modalities. It has been given a kind of magic that says you have to qualify. You have to have a certain kind of knowledge or expertise in the spiritual brigade, in the love and light brigade, in order to do this. And the fact is that I, the soul, has no limitations. There are no limitations. The only reason the ego framework has created limitations for your mind and for your access to the universal intelligence is because where there are limitations, there is a price to be paid. I cannot sell you something if it is not limited. I cannot sell you something if I cannot claim ownership of it. And I am watching all over in the world where this spiritual expertise is for sale. And for crying out loud, people, there's no such thing as spiritual expertise. I don't know how one soul can be better at being soul than another. I don't understand these phrases. All I know is that we are equal but different. And maybe the primary way in which we are different is the level of trust we bring to our relating with the universe as energy. So when I talk to spirit for other people, it is very easy to trust. It's so easy to trust spirit for everybody else, mainly because I do not have an attachment to the information. I don't have a desired outcome that goes with that information. And of course, it is so easy to care for the person I am working with that I want what is for their highest good. And that is an important part of trusting spirit, that we must want what is for the highest good of the parties concerned. So you need to check in this game that you're playing with spirit if you actually feel that for yourself. Do you feel that you want what is for your highest good? Is that integral to your intention in doing this work? Do you care enough about yourself to make that central to your intention? To make that central to everything you do on the spiritual pathway? Because that is the one thing that keeps you on track with the truth of who you are. It took me a long time to learn that I had to put myself first in my spiritual life, not as ego, but as soul. And it's a very different feeling. It isn't selfish, as in the ego way, but it is self-aware, as in the spiritual way. And when I put myself first in my spiritual life, I can engage my trust in spirit for everything that flows with me, around me, and through me. I can use my trust with spirit and in spirit on behalf of others. And it always amazes me. It always amazes me that spirit never ever has an issue of trust. Ascended masters don't ever say to me, I talk to you because I trust you, to say whatever I say as I say it. Okay. Big laugh. Dwalku is thinking this is really funny now. They don't even think this way. There isn't this issue. It isn't even an assumption of integrity. What there is a natural transmission of information that is given. It is just given so purely, so easily, so naturally, that there are no obstacles of thought. There are no entanglements of reasoning. And there are certainly no complications and over-analysis and over-complicating of the issues involved. It is always so simple. So trust is an issue that you work with in terms of yourself, first and foremost. Can you be trusted? And the fact is that every human being I know, including myself, has good reason to not trust themselves. Really great reason to not trust themselves. This is not whether you've told a lie outside of you or not, but this is about whether you lie to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, and spirit hears you and feels you and sees you, experiences you lying to yourself, they love you anyway. They trust you anyway. When you do exactly the same thing, because you are always bearing witness to yourself, you cease to love you anyway. Because human beings are nowhere near as unconditional as spirit. The energy body that is you harbors the lie within you and creates part of that congestion and entanglement that we want to receive frequencies to clear, to heal. And I've done several meditations about this. I remember talking about Chor with Shirdi Baba, right? Yeah, there's all of these meditations that we've done where we've talked through all of these issues. And right up there next to trust is my favorite word in the whole universe, joy. Because ultimately when I feel source, when I feel spirit, when I feel the heavens open up and bless every moment of my life, there is this blissful feeling, and the best word I have for it is joy. So this understanding that trust and this basking in the joy of the universe, they go hand in hand. You won't just be receiving healing frequencies, you'll be receiving the highest frequencies of yourself. And before the ego framework kicks in and everybody goes, oh, does that mean I can manifest more money in the bank and that big house and car? People, that's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. I feel like I bang my head against a brick wall with this. If I'm sounding frustrated, it's because I am. I am constantly explaining to people this relationship with the universal intelligence is not about manifesting more within the ego framework on the physical plane. It is about manifesting the more of who you are energetically as intelligence in harmony with the very same universal intelligence that is supporting you. In other words, if you stopped for a moment and considered that you are one link, bad example, take that one out, because now we're going to do linear thinking. Okay, let's imagine for a moment that you are one bulb of light in an entire spiral of light, and your bulb is shining at 10 watts while all the other bulbs around you are shining at 500 watts. And the only reason you have taken on this physical body is to make that light bulb shine brightly, bright enough that it fits in with the 500 watt spiral. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing. And receiving the frequencies of the universal intelligence while you are in your physical body automatically raises the light that you are in the spiral. Here's the trick of the universe. If for any reason whatsoever you raise your vibration to 500 watts while you are in your physical body, the universe in its intelligence will raise you up further, so you are now operating with 1,000-watt spiral or a 1,500-watt spiral, which means that your capacity to bring light into shadows everywhere in the mass consciousness is higher. There is no other reason for being on a spiritual pathway. You are not on a spiritual pathway so you can just love everybody better. The loving everybody better is a physical plane manifestation of raising your frequencies, of trusting yourself, of being disciplined. It's one of the bonuses of doing the work. So you need to choose. You need to know for yourself what you know and what you believe, and what is the difference between the two. You need to know for yourself to what extent you accept and embrace yourself as an energy being, and trust yourself as an energy being. Because that will determine the extent to which you are accessing the universal intelligence and all of the frequencies required to uplift your energy body as it works within the limitations of your physical body. There is this knowledge that lives inside of every one of us. Just a quiet knowledge that lives inside of us. And no one outside of you has access to that knowledge. Part of the mystical aspect of a spiritual pathway is accessing that knowledge inside of you. And that knowledge isn't just about you or the people you have in your life. It's always a knowledge or a wisdom that applies to everything. And I think of it as a spiritual intelligence that is awaiting discovery, that just shifts you into a whole new beingness with self. Now that knowledge, you've brought it. You've brought it out of the universal intelligence onto the physical plane on purpose. It must be worthy. It must be useful. It must serve a purpose in terms of this person that you identify as here. And it takes this discipline, it takes this trust in order to access that. It takes this work in order to access that teacher within yourself. I am exceptionally blessed. I found my teachers when I was 5 years old, and I have been learning ever since. And I say to all of my students, there is no teacher greater than creation. Be your own teacher. Go places. Experience things. Expand your horizons. Open yourself up to as much as the universe has to offer. Trust that the process will unfold for your highest good. Maintain the intention. But first you have to know that you are energy. You have to know this. And you actually have to start paying attention to what you know. Part of the mindfulness work that we do is to pay attention to what I know. To not forget what I know because it is convenient to go with what I think. And there inside of yourself, you need to know the distinction between the two. Knowing and thinking. These are all topics we've discussed. So last week's meditation about receiving the frequencies of the universe that you require as and when you require it is an exceptionally useful technique. But it can only be fully utilized with trust, with discipline, with practice.